What was a life-changing mistake you made? Quitting a great job with huge advancements when I was 19 because a girl, the job took me out on the road for 2 to 3 weeks at a time, and I didn't want to leave her for that long at the beginning of our relationship. Fuck, that was dumb. It took me 8 years to make that much money again, and that girl dumped me after 5 months of dating. Dating someone who was incredibly toxic for way too long. I don't regret it, though. It taught me a lot about what not to do and how to make sure I'm doing what's best for myself. Cigarette? Yeah man, why not? In my mid-20s I was dating and living a wonderful woman, but I was extremely immature and did a terrible job of keeping my life in order and keeping up decent employment. She gave me so many chances to get my shit together, but time and time again I would just be a useless lump, and she eventually broke up with me and kicked me out. I had to go live with my parents. I completely changed after that. Video games became something I did after all my responsibilities were met, not something that kept me from them. I stopped smoking weed for a while so I could land a reliable job, even though the one I found ended up not drug testing me. I started saving money because I couldn't stand living with my parents. Eventually my ex and I reconnected, and we eventually moved back in together. We ended up getting a new place that was ours. I had moved into her place, and things just kept getting better. We're now married and homeowners, and I'm waiting to hear about an even better job opportunity. It's a shame we had to come to that for me to get my shit together, but it changed my life. Trying to foster unhealthy relationships with a girlfriend, friend, or even family member out of a fierce sense of loyalty, despite it being toxic to my life. Heading home after a nice motorcycle ride on a Sunday evening. Decide on a whim to take a small 10-minute detour because it was one of the last days of the year with nice weather. Crashed into the side of a van with 80 km per hour that didn't give me the right of way. Spent 12 days in intensive care, ended up with persistent health problems and a reconstructed shoulder which left me partially disabled and unable to do sports, lift anything serious, etc. It was a nice ride though. Not texting my boyfriend later that Thursday after an argument. I was mad and didn't want to speak to him. When I finally texted him on Saturday, he had already been dead for 24 hours. I wish I had told him I loved him. Everyone says it's not my fault, but I will never know if I had reached out earlier whether that might have been enough to stop him. I'm never ignoring someone I love because of a petty argument, ever again. Not noticing my own behavior. Thinking I've become a better person and the realization of my mistakes has changed my life. Going to grad school. Accepting the position I work in now. Biggest mistake I have ever made. I am more miserable than I have ever been in my entire life. In fact, fuck 2019 as a whole, this year's can kiss my ass, I am done. I should have tried to get help for my mental health when I was suicidal, and not now when I'm just messed up, because now I'm not sick enough to get help through the public system, and I can't afford to get it through the private system. Not going to grab a bite with my dad just because I was too lazy to meet up with him there. A day later he killed himself. Also not being strong enough to see my dad before being burned, cremated? Sounds weird in my head. Will never be able to see him again, and having missed my chance for a final goodbye kills me every time I have time to think by myself. Thank you for making this thread really needed to vent edit. Thank you everyone for your kind comments. This happened 5 years ago. I am married and our daughter will be born in August. Life turned out good for me, but staying as rational as possible, I still think he wouldn't have killed himself if it'd just been a better son and met up watch him more often. You know, just be more involved in his life. We'll never know and that for it'll haunt me for the rest of my life. EDIT2. You guys really made my day. Thank you all. I thought this comment wouldn't even get a single respond. If anyone deals with similar shit, feel free to hit me up. Not wearing condoms twice. Not starting to take university serious until I failed and had to start a new course. Luckily I'm almost done with this one. In the mid-2000s I used to work a call center job while finishing up uni. It was a startup fintech type job. People got promoted quickly and they paid above minimum wage. But I was naive and didn't realize how backstabby some people could be to get ahead. I carpooled with who I thought was a friend until he started secretly recording our conversations in the car to curry favor with my managers. Thinking I was safe, I was honest about my feelings about certain things at work, and sure enough, he played the recordings to my bosses, and soon after I noticed a change in how I was being treated. They let me go with severance when I caught on to the fact that I was being asked to train my replacement. This led to about 10 months of unemployment with employment insurance and me finding a much better paying job. It was a blow, but I learned from it, and I'm glad I'm not stuck in what is ultimately a dead-end call center job, no matter how they spin job titles. Not a single mistake, but my habit of procrastination has definitely bitten my ass a couple times. When I was saving to go to college, I was a painter. One day on the job, this woman at a house said her son was looking for someone exactly like me. Non-grad, hard worker, nice. She told me he was the CEO of X company. For reference, his latest contract involved a complete overhaul of the London Olympic Stadium, ready for the 2012 Olympics. Needless to say, he's not a small fry. This guy came out of his way to talk to me. When I say out of his way, he fucking flew in from Germany. I didn't know that at the time. I also didn't know he was coming to see me. I just got told to go up to this office room, and there he was behind this 12-foot mahogany desk. Had a lovely chat with him, and he offered to take me on. Take me on working directly under him, to be trained to take over in the coming years, because he wanted to retire before 40 and he had no kids. What the fuck did I say? I'm sorry, but X line of work has no interest to me. I really want to go down the animal care route. He respected that. But years later, living on my own, just getting by juggling my paid work and undergrad, I realized what a fucking mistake that was. You want them chronologically or alphabetically? Eating my feelings when depressed during most of college without also exercising. Wasting 7 years with an idiot. When my ex told me, "I'm not good for you and I'm going to ruin your life," I should have believed him. Getting into a relationship when I knew I was not in the best frame of mind emotionally. When I was fresh out of school with a useless degree in creative writing and no experience, in the middle of the recession, I interviewed to be a marketing coordinator for a local fishing resort marina that was also headquarters for a few dozen vacation resorts along the West Coast. Pay was great, job perks included free travel and food accommodation at any of these resorts, and a fairly free-form job in creating print and web ads, blog material, doing some market research and interviews. It sounded super fun. I aced the interviews and felt like a shoo-in based on how they were talking to me. I prepared for my life of luxury. They asked me to just throw together a quick ad concept. I was staying at my girlfriend's house when the request came in, and she didn't have Adobe CS, so I threw something together quickly in Paint, yes Paint, kind of assuming it didn't really matter since it was just a concept. It was terrible. They went silent, I didn't get the job, and I faced a difficult few years of racking up credit card debt, digging up freelance work, and mass applying to jobs that never contacted me back. I'm doing okay now, but I always wonder what things would be like if that had worked out. Telling how I felt to my best friend, she didn't feel the same way, and from there it went badly, mainly because of how I handled the situation. Lost one of the most important people in my life that day. Driving down a hill in a quad bike in full throttle and crashing into a concrete wall. Honestly? League of Legends. I synced in 5.5 years of my life into it since 2012. I started to care less about school and my health. All I wanted to do was come home and play LOL. I met some incredible people through it, but I ended up not being serious about a career until last year because I was such a slacker. I do still have a soft spot for it, but now I don't play as much and will get on every few months for an ARAM. There's better games out there. Telling Oz the truth about smoking during top-level government security clearance and getting my offer revoked. Selling Bitcoin at $1,000. Buying my house. It's fucking cursed and holding me back. Staying in a horribly violent and emotionally abusive relationship for 2 years that left me with PTSD and flashbacks. Honestly, getting divorced. To be perfectly clear, I desperately wanted out of that marriage, and I don't miss being married for 1 second. My ex-husband is narcissistic, always with an eye for increasingly younger women. After we divorced, he married a woman 30 years younger than himself, slightly younger than our oldest child. He took me to the cleaners from hell during the divorce, and even now, more than a dozen years later, He's trying to wriggle off the hook for the balance of the property settlement that I generously allowed him to pay me monthly instead of in a lump sum. To this day I tell people that if I turn up dead, he's the first person they should look at, and if they do an episode of Dateline about it, insist on getting Keith Morrison, because I love him. If I could go back to when I finally decided to get out of that god-awful marriage, I would have done it completely differently. Instead of filing for divorce, I would have happily let him carry on with whoever his latest sweet young thing was and socked away money secretly like my life depended on it. Then, after 5 years, once our youngest turned 18, I would have simply disappeared. Moved away. Changed my name. Never looked back. Now, obviously, there would have been flaws with that plan, but I can't imagine it would be any worse than what I've gone through. Leaving her because I thought at that moment she could do so much better than me. I was selfish and left when she needed me most. We're back together now. I'm trying my hardest to right my wrongs, and I'm thankful, but I constantly beat myself up over the decision I made and the time we spent apart. I need to let it go and allow myself to be happy again. Not getting my brother the help he needed sooner before he hung himself. Short explanation of the school system here. We have 6 grades in one school building and grades 7 to 9 in another building. Grade 1 to 6 is the same for everyone, while 7 to 9 has 2 different kinds of difficulties. Rather easy and pretty difficult. Nothing in between. To my story, as I finished the 6th grade, I was one of the lucky people to choose to which difficulty I was about to go in. I, being as incompetent as I am, choose the hard way. And well, I didn't made it. I was planning on taking on the easier way anyway, but still. And because of that, people look down on me. Telling me that I'm way too stupid. I only failed because of 2 points, I think. To say it short, I regret taking the hard way. I know sounds probably stupid to some of you. Thank you for reading. Taking a job to save my family. Now I'm dying and I need a surgery I can't afford, but no one will help me. Makes me wonder sometimes if I should have been selfish and miserable instead of giving and miserable. I bought a YEU. I had just gotten a credit card for the first time and thought I could pay it off in 2 months. Reasonably though, I could have, but things didn't work out that way. Next month I had to get a new car battery and replace a few parts, eating up what should have gone to paying the rest off. Things got worse from there. I had to leave my job to be able to graduate college, then couldn't find a job for 8 months and living off of scraps a month and having to put more and more on a credit card. It didn't get any better for a while. More things happened. I moved 3 times within a year, and now it's 4 years later. I'm just now starting to feel like I'm secure again. TLDR. Credit card debt is bad, don't do it. Trusting the wrong person. I grew up very sheltered, naive, conservative, and too trusting of others. I was told by friends and acquaintances that I was too nice and that people would take advantage of that. Unfortunately, I had to learn this lesson the hard way. Fortunately, I made significant life changes to ensure that this wouldn't happen again. Joined the Marine Corps, re-enlisted, got married, re-enlisted again, bought a house. My biggest regrets in life. Leaving my best relationship because I had fallen out of love. Little piece of advice for anyone in that situation. Unless the relationship is highly toxic and unhealthy, mine wasn't, it was perfect and healthy as fuck. Don't just leave purely because you feel like you lost love for them. Yeah, sometimes there are situations where the relationship would just be better off as a friendly one rather than romantic. But if it's going good, nothing bad is happening, an argument here and there is healthy BTW, a relationship without arguments is likely going to become unhealthy, power through that shit. If you just give up, chances are, you're just gonna feel regret. I'm not trying to tell anyone how to live their lives. I'm just taking my experience and giving it to the lovely people of Reddit. I hope someone takes something from this. Edit. If anyone needs to talk about anything, not just relationships, I'm here. I may be young, but I'm a good listener. Well, I got myself kicked out of college. I went on a road trip but decided to drive in the rain. Hydroplaned and almost killed all of my friends. None of us were harmed, but the car didn't make it. Edit. Spelling. Not me but a buddy of mine. Almost 10 years ago he worked as an assistant manager at Olive Garden, working toward becoming a GM of his own restaurant. He stupidly starts having sex with one of the servers and he doesn't use a condom because she guilted him out of it saying she's on birth control. Of course, she gets pregnant soon after and they try to work it out and move in together. You already know what happens next, they start fighting, and one of her friends tells upper management everything that's going on to stick it to my buddy. He ends up being asked to resign, and he's been working shit job to shit job ever since, while being a single dad, paying for almost everything kid-related, and having his health go down the tubes because of all the stress. Knocking up the unemployable, pathologically lying Adderall addict was the worst decision of his life. Not ever taking the time to sit down and think particularly hard about the career I wanted or how to realistically go about getting it before I went to college. 9 years and 1 liberal arts degree later, I'm not using said degree at all, and I'm working in an office at a job not at all related to what my degree is in, nor what I desire to do. I want to go back to school, but I need money. I need to go to school to do what I want to and to make money, but I need money to go back to school. Fuck. Not studying. Telling my ex I loved her. Hung out with one of my best friends who became really psychotic and obsessed with me. For some reason, took me almost 2 years to let go. It honestly twisted the natural trust I have in people, but luckily I'm back with my real friends. Now, this could be a story I post, but id which subreddit so. Marriage. It seemed like the normal thing to do, but the worst mistake I ever made in my life was giving the family court's jurisdiction over any part of my life. If I knew then what I know now, I never would have signed that document at the courthouse. I sold all my crypto in 2017 and used that money to pay for grad school. A forced abortion. Should have had the balls to say no because I wanted to keep the baby. I was 22. The guilt made me mentally ill. Being in my 20s and incredibly bad at making decisions. Not pulling out. Being born. Eating grass in my workplace. I was fooling around one day, showing off some kung fu kicks I'd learned, and I blew out my fibula. Over the next 10 years, the knee slowly deteriorated until I could barely walk without pain. I went from a skinny, fit, physically active adventurous type to an overweight schlub with diabetes. That butterfly effect is pretty deadly. Not taking the license plates off in case I had to flee the scene. Got pregnant, but my kid is awesome so it's okay. Breaking up with a girl I dated in college. I thought it wasn't working, turns out she found out she had some serious medical stuff going on that she just didn't want to burden me with. I thought she was just getting distant because she was disinterested. Found out years later. Turns out she actually really liked me, and for various reasons I won't go into here we were perfect for one another, according to some mutual friends. She's went on to get the medical stuff fixed managed. Unfortunately also fell into drugs and alcohol abuse and is no longer in a good place. Wish I'd have stayed and helped her through it all.